walked away with some pretty good pickups here. I didn't find a copy of Super Metroid like I was looking for, but I found something else that I didn't even expect to find here, and something I have wanted for the collection. What's up, everybody? We are out of the cave and we are going retro game hunting. It's been a while since I've done this. It's also been a really long time since I've recorded anything out of the cave for the channel. And I've been looking forward to this, actually. I've been, wanting to do something like this for quite a bit. The last thing I really did out of the cave was when I went to that retro gaming convention with my son, and we had a blast. And I wish I got more footage than I actually did from there, but overall it was just an amazing experience. But right now, what sparked this is I just found out that a GameStop that was only a few towns away from me got replaced by a retro gaming store. And I'm having the hardest time remembering now what the name of the place is. But I'm on my way there. But the thing that really caught my eye was the location. It was a GameStop for a very, very, very long time. That GameStop was there for like ever. Inside of a mall. It was, one of those locations that years ago, when I actually did still shop now and then at a GameStop, that was one of the locations I would go to. And I haven't shopped at a GameStop in pretty much, it's got to be a decade at this point. I don't go there. I don't like their business practices. I don't like the way they treat their employees. And it just, it was just something I was like, I could do without this. I would rather go to other like mom and pop type shops and support them. And that's where I found some other locations that I go to more frequently. And I'd much rather bring my business there rather than to a GameStop. Now, this place I think is a bit of a chain. I did see online that there were multiple locations. I don't know if this is anywhere near as big as a GameStop as far as like chain stores and stuff like that, but the fact that this long-time GameStop location got replaced actually kind of blew my mind. And this happened at least a few months ago, just based on looking at the timing of reviews. And there was only like, at this particular location, I think it said there was 22 reviews so far on there. A little mixed, mostly positive, mostly very positive. They ranged back, I think the furthest back was 3 months ago. So this is something that, I'm actually kind of surprised this didn't catch my attention anytime sooner. So I saw that and I was like, oh my God, you know what? I gotta go check this out and see what type of a retro gaming store this is. Is it truly a retro store, or is it going to be more like GameStop where they say they have retro stuff, but they really don't? I got a couple games in mind that I'm specifically looking for, one of which is actually a copy of Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. I would like to add that to my collection because I'm planning on getting into that series for pretty much the first time. I've played Metroid before growing up, but I never went deep into it. I never beat a Metroid game. I never got very far in any of the Metroid games, but I have tried them. I have played Metroid before, so I get the idea, I get the gist of it, but I would like to start with the original on the NES and beat it. And then from there, go to Super Metroid, which is just such a huge fan favorite game that I would love to beat that one as well. So that's going to be something that we have upcoming on the channel, and I'm really looking forward to that. That was actually, oh man, who gave me that recommendation? That was a recommendation in the comments section of our Kid Icarus streams. Somebody recommended playing Metroid, and I had mentioned that I never really played them. much. So they were like, oh boy, you got to do this. So that's what kind of inspired this. So that's one of the games I'm looking for at this place if I can find it. But that all comes down to whether or not this truly is a retro gaming store where I can walk in and find Super Nintendo games, NES games, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, stuff like that. Or am I going to be filtering through PlayStation 4, PS5 games, and Xbox games? It's like, what is it going to be? Is this just going to be another GameStop? Or is this truly a night and day difference from what used to be at that location? I don't know what their rules are going to be as far as filming inside. So I am going to ask, anytime I've ever gone to, record any footage anywhere in public and, at store locations or anything like that, I always ask if it's okay. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable or anything like that. So if I can get some footage inside, that would be great. I can't really guarantee it. I'll see what they say about it. And maybe we can get some footage on the inside. Worst case, if we can film a little bit, maybe just get a little bit of, like B-roll footage and stuff like that. So we'll see what we could do, but I always want to be respectful. I hate when I see video footage from people and they're just like really just, they shouldn't be doing it. They clearly are making people uncomfortable, and they've even been asked to not record and they still do it anyway, and then they start to do a whole whatever righteousness of freedom of speech, whatever, a whole bunch of crap that's not something that they should be doing and being disrespectful to people. You can do this respectfully, you can do this in a kind way, and hey, maybe even somebody wants to get in on it and wants to talk and be part of the video. That would be awesome. But either way, the point of this trip is to check out this store and see what kind of options we got locally, or fairly local, to retro game hunting. It's harder and harder to do these days. Everything going digital, places, just really selling things online for the most part, like eBay and stuff like that. But I miss just being able to walk into a store and shop and take a look and see what they have, actually physically hold something, look at the artwork of a game, and if it's a game I've never played or never heard of, make that what helps me determine whether or not I'm going to get it, like based on the artwork. Like in the old day, I miss the days of going to video rental stores, go Friday night and rent something that's going to be the game for the weekend. That's what I grew up with, and I really want to see that make a comeback. And the fact that I see a retro game store, or at least what's listed as a retro game store, opening up fairly recently, as far as I can tell, that's great. That's a wonderful sign of things. So we're going to see what we find. I hope to find some good stuff. I've been looking forward to this. I'm excited, and hopefully I will see you inside the store in a little bit. I was just thinking, it's funny the reasons that I actually make my way out to this mall now these days. This was a location that back in the day, just was generally for most areas, I would say, back in the 90s and early 2000s. I would even say going back to the 80s especially. So 80s big time, 90s totally, and early 2000s even while it was still surviving. The mall was the place to be. Going with your friends and hanging out, going to, sometimes you're going to the movies when the movie theater was still in there, checking out, a bunch of the stores, getting whatever the latest fashion, was for whatever type of clothes you wanted. But most of the time it was just really hanging out, go to the food court, get a bite to eat. Plenty of days you didn't buy a single thing, but you spent like all day at the mall. And now I hardly ever go. It's just a completely different thing. I'm hoping to see more shops like this open up in malls, things that bring back some nostalgia and things like that. To kind of just bring back that feel of make a day of it, or go at least for a couple hours and spend some time with friends or family and hang out. It was a fun thing that we did back in the day, but now, everybody's on their phone. Kids don't really have that same type of experience. I want to try to bring this type of an experience to my kids so they at least get an idea of what I grew up with, and maybe they can have a similar experience. I know it'll never be the same, but it could be fun. All right, guys, just made my way out of Video Game Trading Post. This was the location that I thought replaced GameStop in this mall. Well, I guess it sort of did, because I was talking to the guy that was working there, and he said GameStop closed up shop back in August of 2024 in this mall. And in November of 2024, Video Game Trading Post moved in, but not in the same location, which is actually awesome, because the GameStop location that used to be there was a very small portion of the building. It was a very small store. These guys moved in a different area in a much larger store, and they've got a ton of stock and some really good stuff in there. And I walked away with some pretty good pickups here. I didn't find a copy of Super Metroid like I was looking for, but I found something else that I didn't even expect to find here, and something I have wanted for the collection. Two of the pickups that I got today were two loose NES games. I was in a racing mood and wanted to add these to our collection, so I picked up Super Sprint, the Tengen game right here, Super Sprint for the NES. I love this game, super fun game. I also picked up a copy of Rad Racer. I didn't actually have this in the collection. Let's see if I can get that to focus here. Yeah, Rad Racer on the NES. Super fun game. I didn't have a physical copy of this, so I'm very happy to have that added into it. I picked up two other items. These were ones that were I didn't find out in the wild very often, and this one I'm super happy about, and it is Mutant League Hockey on the Sega Genesis. This is one of my all-time favorite games on the Sega Genesis, and finding this in the wild can be pretty tricky. So I was super psyched to be able to pick that up. And finally, the item I was not expecting to find, and I am super thrilled that they had it and at a very reasonable price. Complete in box, adding to the shelf, adding to the collection. Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the N64. Now, this is complete in box. We opened it up and took a look at the condition of everything in there. The guy was super nice in the store, very, very cool. And I am in love already with the artwork on here. I know we're getting a bunch of reflection on there from the plastic case, but this is going to be going up with the copy of Shadows of the Empire that I added to my collection not that long ago. I am thrilled to be able to have this complete in box. I love the N64 game artwork. It is so cool, super cool. A very pleasant surprise to find that out in the wild and at a very reasonable price. Video Game Trading Post, guys, this is a store I'm going to be returning to. They had a massive amount of stock in there. I only got a little bit of footage in there. I did ask. They said it was okay for me to record. I didn't want to go too crazy. I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable or anything like that. But I got some footage in there so you can get an idea of what they've got out there in stock. They had a lot of complete in box items. They had some stuff I was not expecting, including a bunch of different hardware. They had a Model 3, one of the smaller Genesis consoles. I haven't seen those out in the wild very often. I asked about a CDX, the Sega CDX. They didn't have one, and they also didn't have any Sega Saturn in stock at the moment, but they do take trade-ins and things like that, which was super cool. I also was kind of looking into how they kind of handled certain business practices and everything. They said they set you up on a free account. There's no pressure for anything. Having just the free sign up for the account gives basically a 64-day warranty on the items in case there's a problem, and I can come in and return them and swap them for something else or get some in-store credit and stuff like that. But all of the BS you would get at a GameStop where they're trying to pressure you to get all kinds of nonsense, none of that here. Absolutely none of it. This was a very personable experience. It was a wonderful experience. The store is super clean. There was tons of amazing games, and I can't wait to take my kids here for them to check it out as well. So guys, Video Game Trading Post, a huge win in my book, and I will be returning here for more retro gaming hunting to add some games to our cave. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here for an Out of the Cave episode at Matt Cave Gaming. And until next time, everybody, remember, keep retro gaming alive, because one day your games will be retro too.